Okay, today we're looking at the 1860 Army. This is the Colt. This is a Pietta reproduction, so we're going to look at disassembly, reassembly, and the four main parts of a smoother trigger. So first and foremost, if you choose to do what I do and injure yourself in any way, I'm not responsible. I'm not a professional. And number two, the gun is unloaded, as there are no caps on the nipples. So leave your hammer half cock, pull your wedge. Well, I've already loosened this one. The best thing for this is a clothespin, half of a clothespin. It fits perfectly right there. It doesn't mow or deface the pin, so I choose to leave that screw in there. Turn your cylinder to where your ram will not fall in an empty chamber. You want it on the face of the cylinder, and then just lower your ram. You can see that the barrel comes off real nicely there. Next, your cylinder. Okay, go ahead and drop your hammer. Next, we'll take off the grip, which consists of these two screws and this one screw. Now, I like to take these two out first and this one last, simply because they work against each other. So by doing that, by taking these two out, this one's easier to come out. Always use a screwdriver the right size. And another important thing, these black powder pistols, I mean, there's no reason to over tighten screws. It's black powder. It doesn't build up the pressures of smokeless powder. So, plus, to disassemble them often and clean them, it's so much nicer not to strip out a screw head. So once you get those two out, go ahead and take the bottom one out. The grip will slide down, screw stays in the bottom. Alright, there's our lower action here. What we'll do is we'll take this screw out of the hammer spring, followed by the 3 screws of the trigger guard. Alright, there's the hammer spring. Long-winded screws. Okay, trigger guard comes off. Now, next we'll take this screw out that's holding down the trigger spring. The trigger spring comes off. This is one of our 4 trigger happy parts. We'll leave that one out. Alright, next we'll take these two out. It doesn't matter which order. One is for your cylinder lock, and one is for the first one towards the barrel is for your cylinder lock. Go ahead and take it out. And the second one is for your actual trigger. Now, one thing to remember about these, in a brass frame especially, see, they're just pins with threads near the head, so another reason not to over tighten. Simply pull down on your trigger, and cylinder lock will come right out. We'll set the trigger over here since it's one of our 4 parts. Next we'll take off our hammer. Now you want to slide it down. You can see the notch in the frame for the cylinder arm. The cylinder arm just sits in that hole. There's a little arm on it. Just sits right there. Okay. Now, while you've got it down this far, right now is a great time to clean everything real well. I use and then brasso the frame, you know, so it'll be pretty next time before you get it dirty. So go ahead and clean it, and we'll go ahead and start with reassembly. I like to use bore butter. I will bore butter everything, and that's the lubrication I used. Modern day lubricants with the flash from the black powder just make a black tar gunk that is just a pain to clean. So, you know, stick with traditional bore butter. I like it. Alright, so we'll put our trigger or hammer back in first. Well, actually, before we do that, let me go ahead and show you this. The 4 parts of the trigger job. One of them is this tiny little lip right there. And since it is so tiny, I don't mess with it. I don't have a stone with the right angle to polish that. So I don't fool with that. The trigger, however, has a nice little sear on top of it. That you will want to, I use an Arkansas stone with oil and just kind of polish it, and you want to round it just a fuzz, you know, for a nice smooth kick over. Polish a little bit and try it. Polish a little bit and try it. I mean, don't overdo it to where you have to wait on a part to come in to enjoy the gun. So that's 2 of the 4. We'll go ahead and start putting this back together. Two fingers. So all you need, 2 fingers. Alright. Hammer's back in. Next we will put our cylinder lock in. For some reason this thing really goes in easier when you pull up on the hammer, when you cock the hammer a little bit. So while you're there, make sure it seats all the way down. And you can go ahead and put your pin back in it. You can actually see the groove is cut out back here for it. So go ahead and cock the hammer and get that little beauty seated in. Go ahead and pin it. Next will be your trigger. It'll just slide in. Beautiful. Now, trigger spring. This is responsible for making your trigger come forward. You can see there's a good bend in it. I have taken a pair of needle nose and kind of taken a little bit of arch out of mine. Keep in mind, it's spring steel. I mean, it's not going to bend easily. That's another thing to make it a little more crisp. So we'll go ahead and put that guy back in there. Okay. Next will be your trigger guard. It's also important, don't snug the screws down until everything's lined up. It's kind of common sense, but all of us weren't blessed with it. Get them all started. Now you can snug them up. 2 fingers. Two fingers. Ta-da. All right. Fourth and final part of a better feeling trigger. You'll see the roller on the back of your hammer fits right in the groove of the hammer spring. Just kind of hold it in place. Start the screw. I mean, honestly, you don't even have to hold it in place. You can swing this way out to the side if you want to, just to get the screw started. Brass frame, you just want to make sure you don't cross thread anything. Alright, push that down. You see there's no tension on it. Now I like to tighten it till there's tension on the hammer, like so. And if you noticed, let me loosen it once. Kind of push your hammer back. Get your spring under there. Now what you're looking for is to tighten the spring until your hammer closes itself. You can watch it. See there? And I go about 1 turn past that. Test it out. That's crisp. Now you can loosen it, tighten it, stiffer, looser, whatever you want. Right there is about where I like it. Next will be your grips. This is the all-important bottom screw to do first. It's really not that long-winded. I was missing it for the first dozen turns. Now you'll notice the gap in your frame. This is why it's important to alternate in tightening these screws. Okay, they've bottomed out. Now, cylinder goes on hammer half cock. Arm's working great. Like so. Now, one last final important step. Get your wedge in. Wedge depth is very important here, okay? You can see right now, very free. Alright, non-malleable hammer, just kind of, now I know where mine likes to be. It likes to be flush. See? Not near as free, but if you go too far, you'll feel your cylinder kind of catch. It's not, you know, it'll rub against your forcing cone here. So right there is about where mine likes to be. Let me see if I can better demonstrate the too deep. Alright, so yeah, that's way too deep. See? It rubs the forcing cone. So you want to back that out. Find where your gun likes. Not too loose, but not too tight. Secondly, I'll back this screw out to where it catches the wedge. That way it actually puts pressure on the wedge. There we go. Colt 1860 Trigger job. Very nice trigger job. The hammer spring was so tight on this one when I got it that even with caps on the nipples, it would deform the nipples. It was hitting so hard. So, there you go. Hope you enjoyed it, and happy shooting.